Hello, Alain.
Luther, I can't hear him.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you might need to switch to a different audio, Alain.
Hello.
Nous ne pouvons pas t'entendre. I'll tell him in French.
Sure.
Hello.
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 Hi. Do you hear me?
Hey!
Perfect.
Wait.
Yes.
Okay.
Wait,
Hi, Luther. Hi, Jenny.
Hello.
Very
Alain.
good.
We're fine. How are you?
Yes.
You're looking great.
Are you seeing the screen where I have the agenda up?
The
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
forum screen.
Great.
Welcome
Yeah.
to Earthwide. Yeah.
Okay. I've got 3 minutes on my clock left. We'll let a few more people log in, but we're off to a good start.
Yeah.
The,
For sure.
the heavy hitters.
Wait. Wait, du café.
Du café. Ah, je vais prendre de l'eau.
Ah ouais, c'est mieux, mais. He just told me he drinks water instead of coffee.
Sure.
There he goes with this water.
Okay.
Wait. Santé.
Santé.
Agua sin gas?
What?
Is it agua sin gas? Is water without bubbles?
Oh,
Yes.
oh, okay. Oh,
Flat water.
vous
Yes.
parlez français?
C'est comme ci, comme ça.
Ah, très bien. Voilà. Ah,
Yes, they're
Yeah,
starting.
Jenny, I got your message.
okay, good. Good. I'm glad.
Okay. Got one more minute. I see Roger is logging in. Pat McArdle is logging in. Yes.
How many of us do you expect?
Well, I invited 80 individuals representing about 70, 72 organizations that either sell their own cookers or distribute other cookers. Solar Cookers International is included because they distribute the Cook It as kind of a perk for membership and so forth at events. And the screen that I had going actually had a scroll from the SCI wiki with the list of all the organizations they have noted, and it's a very long list, probably 200 or so, of which 100 or more are dormant. They aren't selling now, but they've been around, and they keep them on for the historical record, which is great. And then there are some that they've switched from solar thermal to doing PV or doing some other solar energy endeavors, but still there's probably for those that I invited, I've got probably another 10 or so from that list that I need to find contact information. I want it to be worldwide, all inclusive. And last night we had Milind Kulkarni from India post in with his talking about his sun dish, and it was a very good discussion. I'm really looking forward to hopefully a few more on the European Eastern Hemisphere to log in. So let's give it. Go ahead.
I have a question. I couldn't find the sun dish online. How do you find it?
Oh.
He was trying to show us a video,
Yeah.
but I couldn't find it.
Well, I think I included I don't remember if I included my video of him, the 2 videos of him, because I did one where I interviewed him, and then I did a forum so I could talk about his process of invention. If you get on the wiki and just put sun dish, all one word, I think it's listed as all one word, you'll find it. I advise pretty much everyone, don't use Google. Up till about maybe 5 years ago, Google would find stuff and it wouldn't get crowded out by ads. Now it's such a mess. I just can't rely on it for stuff. But the wiki for all things solar cooking, go right to solarcooking.org or solarcooking.fandom.com. Either one will get you to the wiki.
Okay.
Yeah. And the note I sent to everyone who made it last night, I included the 2 videos with Milind, so that you'll be able to see his inventive process. The first one in particular I did 2 or 3 years ago. Really incredible. If Alain has a story about balloons, Milind has a story about a seashell and the inspiration it brought him for designing his solar cooker. So we go back to both Mother Nature and to other inventions to create solar cookers.
J'ai perdu l'image.
Ah non?
Oui.
De tout le monde? Tu as perdu l'image?
Oh, I got it.
All right.
I was trying to look for the sun dish, and my screen went
sure.
blank. I'm back with you. I see you again.
Okay.
Good. We see you. We didn't lose you.
Okay, good.
You were always there.
Okay, I'm going to stop my screen sharing for a bit, and then we'll get back to it. So we'll start to see the whole crew here. Well, welcome everyone. We'll get underway in a moment. I'm going to just quickly review the agenda. I'm Luther Kruger. I have met all but one of you. I don't think I've met Olaf before. So welcome. This is great. I hope that must mean my list is getting more accurate, and I'm reaching people that do have an interest in this topic and have some solar cookers to talk about, perhaps. But anyway, I'll get back to sharing the screen with the agenda and talk through it. Probably in about 5 minutes, I'll be able to cover all of it. I've got to find my little share button here. Find that screen, share it. Okay, you should see the agenda for today. We'll in a moment we'll start with introductions, so you'll all get to know each other, and then I will list the topics that we are going to discuss in future meetings. I surveyed the group that I've sent my note to, and always open to more, and we have 7 or 8 at least pretty serious topics that anyone who manufactures or distributes solar cookers will want to talk about. They've been brought to my attention over the years of interviewing cooker makers, as well as some I've thought of myself. And last night we added 2 more, and we'll go through them in a little bit. But we won't talk about those topics tonight or this morning. We'll talk about them at the future meetings. January, we hope to convene 2 more, just like this one. My time construct is I want to do 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening, so that we can cover the whole world at a reasonable hour. Milland logging in from India, like everyone else I know from India, they say, "Oh, we're used to it. We're used to having to get up at 3 a.m. to to visit online." And I'm saying, but that's not fair. That's not fair. Well, at least offer at least one opportunity where they can have a good night's sleep and talk about solar cooking. So, and the list, the topics you'll find, I think they're very compelling, and everyone will have something to contribute. And then following that, opening it up for other topics. The one that I'd like to ask this group, and last night there were pretty strong feelings about this. The question is, should we open up this forum outside of the what we could call a trade group, you folks that are selling or distributing cookers? And the sense was, at least initially, we should keep it to manufacturers and sellers, distributors, and see how it goes. And ultimately, if the group is fine with sharing the recorded conversations or snippets thereof, we can talk about that. But then we can air that again this morning. So, and then after all that, we'll just some time for networking. If there's any connections you'd like to talk to anyone specifically in the group here, we'll have time for that. So, and I see Pat McArdle. Pat, are you still on?
I'm on.
Oh, great! There we go. My I got the crowd screen up and below in my second screen, and it didn't expand enough to show everyone. So now I see at least 8 of us here total. So this is great. So that's the agenda, and I'm going to back out of the screen share again. There now I've covered up my screen share. There we go. Stop the share, and. What we did last night, I'll just do it again this morning. This morning here in Minnesota, anyway. I think it's probably afternoon there in France.
Yes.
Yes. So
Saturday afternoon.
Saturday afternoon. Oh, the leisure day. Yes.
Hello.
Well, we'll start with Alain. Do the elevator speech or a little beyond that. Introduce yourself and talk about your cooker.
Okay. So hi everyone. I'm very happy to be here. It's my first time with you guys. I do the SunPlicity solar cooker. So it's a deep parabola. I did many kinds of different prototypes of cookers in my life. I worked with box cookers mostly, and I was missioned to make a beautiful cooker that would be good for rich countries to seduce poor countries. So the SunPlicity is a deep parabola, and that was the first major point, was to get the parabola deep, because I found that shallow parabolas like TV antennas tend to be dangerous if they're not attended. One advantage of the deep parabola is it's very easy as far as orienting it. The sun can cook for almost 3 hours without moving. And so the SunPlicity is a foldable parabola. It folds flat. I have one here. That's what it looks like. I don't know if you see. It takes about 1 minute to set up and 1 minute to fold down. It's all metallic. I try to avoid plastic to make it the longest lasting possible. The mirror is made from the best aluminum I found, which comes from Alain, Germany. They did biomimetics. I don't know how you say. They found a seashell that creates ceramic in cold water, and they imitate that process. So through void, they applied 2 nano layers of this ceramic coating, and that makes the aluminum very long lasting. They tested it for 15 years, and after 15 years, it had only lost 10% of its power. And as the SunPlicity is folded most of the time, I hope that it will last even longer. I used to have steel parts that would rust. Now the new model is all with stainless steel, so it's really meant to last forever. It's a small model. It's for 2 to 3 people. The temperature it reaches, in less than 10 minutes, in 8.5 minutes, it will go up to 230 degrees Celsius. So you can cook pretty much everything on it. The only thing I failed cooking were French fries. They looked good, boiling fine, but they tasted greasy. Somebody gave me a recipe since then I've got to try out. Everything else works. You can broil, you can bake cakes easily, vegetables, stews, whatever. The thing I do most of the time here is duck or geese, turkey. Turkey I do very often, and chicken. I love chicken. It takes a little longer than a regular fire. It will take about 1/4 or 1.5 the time that you would use on a regular stove. However, the way the heat comes in is quite interesting because it will come mostly from the top and the sides and much less from below. So it doesn't stick at the bottom of the pan. It won't burn like it would burn on a regular fire. And this makes it that you can leave the cooking on its own and go away, and it will cook without burning. That's very convenient. My best cooking day was one day friends came to visit with the night train, and they arrived 7 in the morning. So we come home, we set the luggage, we take breakfast, and before going out, I set up a chicken. And the sun is still behind the trees, and the friends really don't understand what I'm doing. We go to Albi, we visit the museum, we visit the cathedral, we do some shopping, we come back 3 hours later for lunch. The chicken is ready, it's hot, it's ready to be served. I didn't talk about it, I didn't think about it. It was just easy cooking. One little useful detail, I added a little sundial in the back of the parabola, which helps you know, it looks like a target, helps you know where it's hot, but it also gives you your cooking time. And there's a red spot in the middle that lasts half an hour when it gets crossed, and each side around is 15 minutes more. So you can set up the cooker to cook up to 3 hours non-stop without turning it, without attending. And as it will cook from top and the side and less from below, you don't need to be there. You can go away. I guess that's most of it.
Sure. I can attest when I have hit the road 8 times to visit anywhere from 15 to about, I think, 35 solar cooks around the country. The only cooker I pack, because it fits and it's powerful, and I can go to a roadside rest and cook my lunch in about a half hour, 45 minutes. So I can take a break from driving and eat at the end. One story quickly, when I was at the rest area and I was cooking, a mother walked by with her daughter who was maybe 6 or 7 years old. And her daughter turned to the mom and said, "Look, Mom, there's a solar cooker." And the mom said, "I don't think so." And I said, "She's right. She's ahead of the curve." And that just really warmed my heart, because here's this girl, 6 years old. She already knows. Maybe we have to forego the last generation, but the new generation apparently is taking it on. You know, the one thing I'm looking forward to, I'm waiting to camp out in a campground where they have a fire ban, because you cannot start a fire with it. I have put very dry tinder all over when it's in perfect focus, and it will not start a fire. And the portability, all the other parabolics I have, one, it was the Soul Source Sport. They called it portable, and I say, well, it's portable like a bass violin is portable. You know, yeah, you could put it in a backpack, but it's very awkward. But anyway, well, fantastic. Thanks for sharing that, and we're looking forward to hearing your thoughts on some of the topics that are coming up and so forth. So, well, next on my screen, I'm going to go down and do kind of counterclockwise in my little circle here. Pat McArdle, who I think I've run into 2 or 3 or 4 times on road trips and conferences and so forth. So, Pat, tell us what you're all about.
Well, I am not a maker. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I am not a maker or a designer. I'm an advocate for solar cooking, and my interest began, I was sent to Afghanistan for a year when I was a diplomat in 2005, and I had made a solar cooker when I was a Girl Scout 1,000 years ago. I hadn't really thought about it till I got to Afghanistan. I saw these little children hauling wood, and it was sunny most of the year. Even when it was cold, it was sunny. So I went to the Solar Cooker International website, and they have many designs, which I think they should test and rate, but they haven't done that yet. But there are lots of different designs. So I picked a few, and over a month or 2, made some solar cookers, tested them, and found that for me, because I would go out with soldiers on patrol, that the easiest one was the Cook It. It's not durable, but it's light and it folds up. So I would take the Cook It and a bottle of water and a pan that I painted black and a lid, and I would demonstrate it in villages, and people were quite amazed that this little thing could actually boil water. That's basically what I did, because my job was not promoting solar cookers, it was reporting on what was going on. So when I came back in 2006, I joined the board of Solar Cookers International, and then there's a DC group that's very small, Solar Household Energy, which developed the Hot Pot, which is a sort of an upscale design of the Cook It. And ever since have been traveling and promoting and going to refugee camps and doing a lot of writing and meeting many of them. I haven't met you. I think I have most of your solar cookers in my garage. But I do have to get a new SunPlicity because I have one of your original prototypes. So I need to get a new one with all the aluminum in it. But I was sort of, when the pandemic hit, I went back for a year to help my grandson attend kindergarten in his bedroom. And then we had various illnesses and I had surgeries and everything. So I've been slowed down a lot in the last few years and am working on an article that I've been gathering information on for quite a few years on efforts to suppress solar cooking technology. And I may be calling on some of you for comments, but I have a lot of information I've gathered through the US government and others. And I think this technology is so important for so many people. I mean, for us, it's fun, cook at the beach or cook in a park where you're not allowed to light a fire. But there are millions of people who desperately need this. And there are pretty powerful efforts to suppress the technology so that rather than distributing durable solar cookers and funding it, there are efforts to get people to use propane, which is ridiculous in a refugee camp where you have 30, 40, 50,000 refugees out in the desert. That's not feasible, nor is collecting wood. So I'm sort of coming back into the fold now. I've been out for a while because of all my family medical issues, but coming back, and I'm really happy to participate and to listen to what you guys have to say today. Thanks.
Thanks, Pat. And I got to make mention that in 2020 I hit the road to start collecting stories of solar cooks on my YouTube channel, and I thought I was being original, but the fact is Pat was the trailblazer that way. She has several videos she's put together that are incredibly informative. And in particular, she's an advocate of the integrated cooking, which is not just for solar cooking, but it's an ideal companion. Obviously, the hay basket, heat retention cooker to put your food in after you've already got it started, especially if it's a large volume. And so I believe you have one of your videos on that. So just an inspiration to me for all of her advocacy and support, especially supporting what I've been doing. So thanks so much.
Can I add one? I want to
Oh,
add
sure.
one more.
Yeah.
Two more things. Yes, I do have a YouTube channel called Solar Wind Mama, or you can just type my name in and it will come up. And I have about 30 videos going back to 2007 when I started making videos on solar cooking. But the most recent one I made was 2 years ago on cooking with a retained heat container, because it's a pretty powerful way if you're cooking with solar or you're cooking with over a wood fire or any fire, even over an electric stove. You can start something cooking, you can get something boiling, and then put it in a retained heat cooker and it will finish cooking. So it's useful in many ways, and something that really concerns me is the fact that many of the big solar cooking organizations that I have worked with and some vendors don't promote the combined use of a solar cooker when it's sunny, retained heat container to keep the food hot for hours after that, but when it's not sunny, use a wood stove or charcoal or whatever, but only use it for about 15 minutes to get your pot of food boiling, and then put out the fire and put it in a retained heat container where it will finish. And combining the use of the three will significantly reduce fuel use, and for some people that's a lifesaver. So my next video is going to be that experiment. I'm still working on how I'm going to do it, but I want to compare somebody who doesn't use retained heat and somebody who does. And I also want to say hi to my neighbor to the south, Roger Haines. And hi Roger. I watched Roger over the years developing slowly, but very successfully, his Haines solar cooker. And that's also in my garage, and I cook with it, and I've used it in my videos. So good to see you. That's all. Thanks.
All right, and what I'm doing in order of, I'm starting with the folks who are new this morning that were not on the call last night, so we give them a chance to brag about what they're doing or what they know about solar cooking. And next on my screen that I did not see last night, Olaf Lee. Yeah, tell us about yourself.
So I am completely new to the solar cooking world. I ironically came across a solar cooker while I was visiting a site to look for additional shop space for my business, and there was a solar cooker there in various models of it, and I asked the guy that was showing me the space about it, and he talked to me about this company called Persons Helping People, and Mike and Martha Port, and how the company had basically gone out of production and were looking for some help to bring it back to market. And this is back in October of 22. And I had an opportunity to meet Mike and Martha, and through the conversation, found out that Martha was actually one of my Sunday school teachers. And that she knew my parents, and we kind of hit it off. And I primarily come from the industrial design side of things, heavy equipment, often large processing equipment. And they were looking for someone to come in and help them bring their product back to market. And so over the last 2 years, we've gradually taken what they had in inventory, brought it into the shop, and then just kind of started working at putting it back together. And I'm excited to say that we received money in the last 2 months to actually bring the oven back into production. And so we're working on doing that, and it should be, the website should go live in the next 3 to 4 weeks, and then people can start purchasing them. And part of what we're trying to do right off the offset is build it the same way they built it, to understand all of the componentry, because I'm really new to this, and they've spent a lot of energy and time, and in deference to their legacy, they really want to understand how it works and bring it back to market effectively. We already have 180 still on back order, so which is excellent. And based on the cost increases and the limited number we can buy, our price point is $400 right now going out the door. And we have yet to have anybody say that it's too high, which is incredible. But the next piece that we're looking to potentially add is as we increase our volume of production, we'll hold the price point, but we want to try to introduce something similar to the Bombas sock model, where if you buy an oven, we'll donate an oven. That way we can continue with the mission mindset that the ports had all along of bringing these ovens to areas that with deforestation. And because of my industrial background, what we're also trying to do is industrialize the jigs used to assemble it, and then potentially set up production in foreign countries where they can build their own solar ovens there, and we can donate that to get those businesses started in those locations, and then just run the retail side as well. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's a lot to take in, and I'm happy to be here. And thank you for inviting me to this opportunity.
Well, thank you. And I gotta say, I have to apologize. I have met you. We met at your shop. I see your cap there and the logo. I'm thinking that's familiar. Prototype Lab. Is that what you?
Prototype Garage.
Garage. That's right. And to indulge me and share one item you talked about there, because it's this is the creativity side. Talk briefly about your project with hops and brewers, how they wanted to work with hops.
Yeah. So part of what we've done, so I have about a 30-year background in hazardous waste. I actually worked in the former Soviet republics on nuclear waste in the 90s, and then transferred over into municipal solid waste, and through the process designed systems that would process like 5 to 50 tons an hour of municipal solid waste to pull the recyclables out of. And through that found some recycling equipment that we've now started to adapt to the food industry, where we can take byproducts from food production, strip out the valuable oils and compounds, and sell them back into the marketplace. And one of the baseline products that we were working on was to refine the machine was hops extraction, because there's a lot of pelletized hops that basically just get thrown away. And there's the same oils are still in the hop, even though they've aged. And through a supercritical CO2 extractor, we're able to actually strip those oils out and bring those oils to market. So we kind of have a wide-ranging variety, and the solar oven is one piece of what we're doing in our shop, but it's still a separate entity. It's a 501c, and we're taking in donations, and I'm trying to work with foundations to get it launched.
Well, that's fantastic, and us beer drinkers in the world, thank you.
Yeah, we've got some very unique, differentiated products that we imagine should be in the market sometime next year.
Oh, excellent. Well, I know we'll cross paths again, the ports. Mike Port spoke to a class I taught at Metropolitan State back in 2006. Where it was about GIS and how they looked at the world map to see where the most sun was and the worst deforestation was happening, and that's where they were going to target their efforts for outreach. Very, very forward-thinking folks. For those that, after we're done, I'll send a link to my interview with the ports. I think it's over an hour, because they have history going back to the sun stove with Richard Wareham and so forth. Just incredible, an incredible couple. I always buy two, and then I give away one, and then I buy another one, and I probably have gone through 15 of them, and I have 2 of them right now. Use them banana bread. That's my signature dish. Okay.
What is the name of the oven? I missed that in the
It's
beginning.
the SunSport.
Oh, it's the Sunscape.
Yeah, and Solar Oven Society, I think they still call it the Solar Oven Society. I know they had a,
We're actually gonna switch. And
Okay.
Just because we noticed when I was trying to fundraise, there was some confusion
Okay.
around what's the Solar Oven Society versus what's Persons Helping People, which
Oh,
is
right.
the 501c. So we're just going to go with the 501c and kind of just let the Solar Oven Society was something they really drove. So I will still give that the credit, but at the end of the day, we're going to be PHP or Persons Helping People.
okay, great. Yeah, and we'll
Yeah.
make sure to get that to the wiki folks, Tom Swanheim and Paul Hedrick. They'll make sure that's updated on the wiki. If for those that logged in earlier, I had a scrolling list of all the manufacturers and distributors around the world that they have accumulated. Well over 200, of which half or more are probably dormant or have gone out, have moved on to other things. But I think I mentioned earlier too, I invited 80 people representing about 70 or 71 organizations, and I think that'll be up to 100 by the time I get through their list to find ones that I have missed. And I want to make sure they're on board before January when we really hit the ground running with the topics that we've identified. So, well,
And if you want to check out the website hasn't been updated yet, but you can go to solarovens.org.
Yep.
Is the website, and it still says, up at the top, the store isn't open, but there will be a little bit of rebranding that we're going to do with rolling the new product line out and integrating the purchase page. And it's a learning experience for me on this side because solar ovens wasn't something I ever expected to be a part of. But ironically, my daughter married an Ethiopian, and I went to a wedding in Ethiopia just this summer, and through that met some of the gentlemen that my son-in-law's dad works with, one of which works with the African Congress, and asked specifically about what we could do to bring business to Ethiopia that they could build there. And so that may be our first target market, to bring production for our ovens to that area. Because that way we can avoid all the shipping costs.
Sure. That's the ideal. Okay, well, thanks again. Next on my screen, I see Johan Van Wyk, and from South Africa, I believe. If you could unmute and introduce yourself. I hope you're still logged in. Maybe he's gone to get coffee. While we wait for Johan, the last one that of the new folks, new to this forum anyway, Arliss Walters, who I've met twice, one to buy his cooker for my collection, which is proudly in the middle of my new expanded solar deck in our backyard, and then later to interview him about the cooker and the process he went through developing it. So Arliss, if you're able to speak up, we can hear your story.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, I didn't get logged in on the picture and everything there, but anyway, my solar cooker's a little different than most people's. It's set out in the backyard. It's got tubes to heat up and heat oil on the inside, and it also goes up to the top, and the hot oil goes up there, cooks your product. It's the same thing as a regular burner underneath any kind of pot you want to put out there. It doesn't have to have a black pot inside the cooker, and besides that, it's inside a closed area, so you don't have any insects or anything like that bothering your product, and it'll work anytime the sun's shining, winter, summer, fall. If the sun's shining, it'll produce what you need to produce. It'll produce about 10 pounds of food a day, and water if you want to process water. Make a purification, on that. If your water happens to get bad, you can process your own water. And I think it's a good deal. I'm still working on a patent on it. They kind of refused my patent, but I've got a little bit more going on it. they didn't understand the process, and they threw a wrench in the game. But anyway, we'll try to get that going out again. Still working on that process. We modified a few things, but that'll give us where we can go back into the same pattern as is. So it's a unique, like I say, it's unique. You don't have to track the sun. It'll track it morning to night because the tubes are round. So wherever the sun comes and hits the tubes, it'll heat up. And it usually heats up pretty well by noon there, and then from noon to 4 or 5 o'clock, you've got good cooking time.
Great. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, like I say, I have it, and it's perfect for when you want to slow cook ribs or pork roast, beef roast. We have done probably a dozen of them, and every bit as good as the pit masters, that have to stoke up, tons of wood to get the barbecue to go for hours and hours on end. This one in a day, you have perfectly cooked food up there. So, yeah, well, thank you. And Johan is now ready, I see. Are you ready, Johan? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this, like I say, the cooker is kind of a unique deal, and it's got oil on the inside of it. It's food grade oil, so it won't harm the product in case there's any vapors or anything like that puts out. And I think it's a good idea. The unit the oven has to be the same size as what your heating is, 1-to-1 ratio, and I think it works real good. And like I say, I'm sitting here waiting on things, and they're kind of expensive to build. Prices and everything went up a little bit, and it probably costs right now probably $2,500 to build it, and that's out of the market range of most people, And so that's where the drawback is. If the product gets down a little cheaper, where we can buy the copper tubing things, well, then we can get back in. We've built about six or seven of these so far out. I got a couple more to build.
Great. Well, thanks. Well, we'll move on to Johan. I see you say you're unmuted. Are you ready to go? Johan, maybe you have a different microphone you need to select, because I'm not hearing anything. Oh, there we go. Okay, Johan, are you set? I'm going to guess, I know I've had that happen where I have a microphone on my camera and one in the laptop, and sometimes inexplicably the system says, we'll try the other one, and then it mutes me, or I don't know. It doesn't say I'm muted. So we can hang on, and we'll work on that, Johan, in the background. Meantime, we'll move to those that attended last night, and I'm looking at the upper left part of my screen. I see Janie. You're situated in Lubbock, Texas. How's it going?
Well, really well. So I would love to know where the other people are from. So I'd like to know that. Where are you from, Patricia?
Sorry, I had to unmute.
Yep.
I'm in San Diego, California.
Okay. And
But I lived on the East Coast for many years, and that's where I first got involved.
Okay. And Olaf?
I'm in Minnesota.
Okay, so near Luther?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe half-hour drive, I think. I'm going to say not New Brighton. What is it? North of there.
Little Canada.
Little Canada, yeah. Little slice of Canada in the middle of Minnesota.
And Arliss?
Oh, Arliss? Yeah, Oklahoma. I know southeast Oklahoma, not too far from the Arkansas border. I remember when we picked up his cooker. Let's just say It took Arliss, myself, and two of his strapping young nephews to get it onto a trailer. It's a lot of oil and a lot of tubes. A big cooker, 300 pounds, 400 pounds, pretty heavy. Getting it home, I figured out with a farmer's jack. Do you remember the farmer's jack? Those big, tall jacks you can lift your pickup truck 5 feet in the air with them. I was able to use that to unload it myself from the trailer, which was probably not wise. I probably could have hurt myself. But anyway, I visited Arliss twice on his farm there in Oklahoma.
Okay. Well, so I'm from Lubbock, Texas, and there's lots of wind and sun here. And in 1998, I quit teaching French and Spanish so I could do a solar business. And I didn't know what I was doing at all. But I took my thoughts, and I wanted to do a vertical axis wind generator. And I went to Austin with it and went into a park for Earth Day. And there was a woman passing out hot cookies, and they were made with the Solar Chef Starflower there in the park. And I had never even heard of such a thing. So immediately I told her I wanted to be a distributor for her. And she called me later and said, "Can you manufacture for us?" And I said, "Sure, we'll try." And so I sent some people up to Sam Irwin's place at that time in Oregon, and they learned how to do that, and we came back and we started a business. Sam came twice and helped us set up our and that was the Y2K time, so we had 240 waiting to be 240 orders, and so that was great. But right after Y2K, then everything recyclable or sustainable fell apart because the world was still existing after the computers actually worked anyway. So I had to go back into teaching. So I did teaching but in the meantime, then Luther Kruger called me. I don't know how many times he came to Lubbock, and we sat in the coffee shop, and he interviewed me about Solar Chef and about Sam. And so I will say that, Olaf, Sam and I had been trying since 1998 to do what exactly you are doing, is that find someone that he always said, these are just prototypes. So we need a manufacturer that'll come in and modify what we're doing to make it viable for manufacturing. And our whole goal was exactly what you were saying. Our goal was to manufacture here and then just take the manufacturing reproduction and put it overseas. That was it. What you were saying was exactly what Sam and I had in mind. He really had a heart for the African countries like Patricia to be able to make them viable. We actually took the huge Solar Chef, the wooden one, to Nigeria because we were invited by the government there to see how we could set up the manufacturing. But we were there on Earth Day in 1999, and the government changed in May. And when the government changes, everything changes. And so the government that was interested in the solar cooking before for their people and was no longer in business. But what they had in mind was because you cannot take such a thing to the people themselves. So the person that had invited us had divided the country into 6 parts. And so we would train the people in Lagos or Abuja, and then they would go out in the middle part and train the people in their own sectors, who would then go train the chiefs and the tribe people, so that no one from our contingency would ever have contact with them, but they would have all the expertise to cook and to do whatever they wanted to do. So that's a really good model itself. And then one day, Luther said, "Janie, I've got something I've got to show you." And I said, "What is it?" And he said, it's in my trunk." So he pulled out the SunPlicity, and there was this thing, and he just pulled it up and it was working, and I said, I have to have one of those. So immediately I wrote Alain. I found him online, and the webmaster, it wasn't working. So it took a whole year for me to get in touch with Alain. And finally, when I did, I kept trying. I think I forgot about it, and then I tried the next summer, and I just said, I want to manufacture your oven in the United States. That's what I first introduced. And he said, well, why don't you just see what we're about first? So I went there with friends. I speak French, and we went to Besançon, got our friend, and went down to Alain's place, and he cooked for us. No, I don't remember if he cooked for us there, but anyway, they left me. They went to Barcelona, and I stayed at Alain's for 3 days. Went to his different manufacturing, found the way that he uses the disabled community that are actually in one place. They live there, and then they I think that was the laser beam place. But I went to 3 different places with him, and now I do distribute in the United States. So I have 4 in my shop, Patricia. If you wanted his new model, I have them there. If you wanted to contact me on that. But what I love about this is, I've been doing this since, I don't know how long you guys have. Probably, I look at you and I know that you've been doing this longer than I have. And Alain, as we each one of us have this history that is just so amazing. And I've lost heart, I have to tell you. I have a solar energy business, and I put solar on homes, and I do all that. But I have in my shop, I have 5 of Sam's prototypes and Alain's Simplicity right in the middle. And I try to produce, interest for people that come in, and it's just like they get clouded over. They can't get it. They don't understand it. So I think this is going to be so important for us as a community. We are all, there's no competition, because there's, like when I first went into solar, I'd be worried about this guy who was advertising more. And I had one of my colleagues say, there is no competition, because we're all promoting something that is just not known. And so that's how we have to look at this, that we are, whichever one works best, whether it's the smaller one, portable one. Mine's not as portable, although I took the sunflower to New Zealand on a plane in a 20 by 20 box, and so it's portable as well. Not like Alain's that I carried back from France on the plane in the upper thingy, the whatever, the luggage rack. But anyway, I just am grateful to be a part of this. It's because my dream is to manufacture, because we use the very same material, Solar Chef, as Alain, the Alain. So we together we've come and we're using products that are very proven, more expensive, and so there's a give and take in all of this. But anyway, I'm just grateful to be here, and to I feel like it's giving me a big shot in the arm, and I'm very grateful.
Well, thanks, and I want to riff on what you said about the products not being known, and we're going to work on that. When Roger and Pat and who else was there, Jim LaJoy and Sharon Clausen, we met this year, and I don't know who came up with it, but the expression was, we can't wait for the day when we're going to fight over market share in the solar cooking industry. If we get to the point where we're duking it out and we're trying to undercut, everyone's prices, boy, that'll be a red letter day. So that's why I'm really glad we can assemble the group of makers, because I think everyone's got a big piece of the puzzle, and some are making big waves, but we've got challenges. Even the best, I know at the Consol Foods Conference, the 2 that I've been to over in Spain and Portugal, that was one real critical thing, was some countries really make it difficult to get any product in, regardless. And it gives you the shudders to think how much work you have to do to make it happen. So, well, hopefully, Johan, if you want to unmute and give it a hopefully 3rd time is a charm. Give us your story. Oh, I'm gonna guess. I'm not hearing anything, Johan. I'm gonna guess maybe under the sound button on Zoom, the microphone button.
Maybe, can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you. Great.
Wow. Yeah, it's my technology that I have a problem with. I wasn't expected to say anything. I just wanted to learn from you experts out there. I'm in South Africa, and I manufacture the patio solar oven, the Sun Genius patio solar oven. And I cook from the sun for almost 40 years. And my solar cooking started with a sun stove with Margaret Bennett. And I actually know Margaret very, very well. She sold to NGOs and all sorts of groups, I think hundreds of thousands of sun stoves. But they did not sell it to communities, they actually handed it out for free. And the bad thing about when she closed her business was she said to me that she is so disappointed that in all these years, no one in the communities ever bought a solar oven for themselves. They were all waiting for solar ovens to be handed out. And me and Erica decided to change a couple of things to see if we cannot make a difference in people's view about solar ovens. So we upgraded the sun stove, and we did two things. The one was we put it on wheels, and the second one was we added electricity. And adding electricity, we're talking about a 200 watt element working from the grid or from batteries or wherever the power comes from. And that made a difference, which led to us designing our own oven, which we now sell as the patio solar oven, but only in South Africa and neighboring countries like Namibia and Botswana, Lesotho, just the countries around South Africa. What I can add is that I put all my customers on a Solar Chefs WhatsApp group, and this seems to be making quite a big difference because they all share recipes and ideas, and they all have actually now become friends. Not all of them, but you know, the participants. Now that seemed to make a big difference, so that at the moment I don't advertise. I get all my orders from word of mouth, because every time I sell a solar oven, they share it with their friends, and their friends get onto the WhatsApp group as well. So that seems to be working very, very well for me. But I just want to mention one more thing. In order to get people to be more convinced that the sun can actually cook and bake and make a difference, is we tested a commercial solar bakery with our ovens, and we baked the rust in large quantities, which we sold countrywide. And the idea was, on our labels, we had a picture of the solar oven, and we made a special label saying solar baked and solar dried. So when we started the bakery, the idea came up of designing a solar dryer as well. and the solar dryer was such a success that we could dry about 250 kilograms of rusk per day from the sun only. And that led to me designing the mini solar dehydrator. And that I now also manufacture on a large scale, distributing it on a countrywide basis. And it works so well that is actually now, I think I sell about 3 times more solar dryers than solar ovens. And that I also manufacture as a solar electric. Now I am very convinced that, especially here in South Africa, where we have power problems and our electricity bill is going up and up and up and up. So that actually plays into our advantage. And because we use not that much electricity, we're talking about 200 watts per oven, people can actually use this backup from the solar panel and solar battery and inverter system. And they don't have to have a big system to use this backup. So that seems to work very, very well for us. And I think we're planning a bigger one for commercial drying, but that is going to be a bit in the future.
Very good. Thanks so much. I make mention of Dave Chalker, who also has a hybrid cooker, which is what you've described, where it's a box cooker with a heating element. So if the clouds roll in or you want to cook at night, it's a versatile product that way. And I know when I interviewed Johan for my channel, that was one main thing, was if the power goes out but you still got sun, you can still cook, which is kind of the reverse of what we usually expect of a hybrid cooker. Like Dave Chalker, quick story, and then we'll get to Larry to introduce himself, but 2020, the Console Foods Conference in Faro, Portugal, which is known for being almost sunny year-round without a glitch. The 3 days of the conference, it happened to be the time where they had just 1 hour of sun and the rest were clouds and rain. And Dave Chalker had the last laugh because he had his ugly box cooker that he plugged in and cooked desserts for everyone, and a birthday cake for Celestino, the organizer of the conference. So, and what it told me was, make sure we don't discount any possibility for solar cooking and crossover technology and so forth. On Thursday night, I mentioned the story of when I chatted with Alan Bigelow with SCI and his PEP test, and he kept saying, well, we have to be agnostic about this test, where we can't favor one cooker over another. And I said, could you replace that word with another religious term, which is ecumenical, as in we should welcome all views, and everyone can make their own choice, but let's welcome all views. And I have that same feeling for hybrid cookers. Dave Chalker will take a very strong stance to say, if you've got a box cooker, consider your next iteration of it to include a heating element backup to make it more versatile. But anyway, not to make the pitch for him. He will be on eventually. He was going to try to be here this morning. So, last but not least, and since we're running close to the hour, Larry Schlussler, if you could do the elevator pitch of what you have by way of a product for solar application.
Hi.
Hello.
Interesting presentations this morning. Originally, we were working on, I had a business that built refrigerators for off-the-grid applications. We sold a lot of them in Africa for vaccine storage. And while I had the business, I had time to build a variety of solar cookers. Our first solar cooker was actually a 1 by 6 foot collector with some reflectors, and we made steam in it, and then we had a flexible tube go into pressure cooker. It worked well, but it was kind of inconvenient. And then we went on to a bunch of various types of box cookers. We had a big one where we could cook 10 loaves of bread at a time. And then we went on to evacuated tubes. We started using these large diameter evacuated tubes. And recently we switched to solar photovoltaics. What we're working on now is a system, it's a PV direct system. There's no battery. So the power system is fairly simple. Since we started our business in selling refrigerators, the price of photovoltaics went down by more than a factor of 10. So it's getting more feasible to do cooking with solar electric. So what the power system is, we have a solar panel, 380 watts, which of course you could import it to Africa for about $100. And then a small gadget called the maximum power point tracker that keeps the solar panel working at its maximum efficiency. And then in the US, we have 120 volt AC appliances. So we could put this DC output onto any cooking appliance that uses a resistance heater as a heating element. So you can heat, the resistor will work on either AC or DC. So one of the things we're fooling around with right now a lot is we have a 6-quart pot with the heating element. It's 120 volt AC, and the heating element's connected to the bottom of the pot, so you get real good heat transfer between the pot and the heating element. And then I was glad Patricia talked about retained heat cooking. We've always been really interested in efficiency, and we felt that's really an important part of cooking. So the retained heat cooking, well, we actually, while we're cooking in this pot, we actually have an insulating cover that fits over the pot. So we're actually insulated while the food is heating up and after it comes to a boil. After it starts boiling, we have this heat sensor, steam sensor. It automatically shuts off the cooker, shuts off the heating element. So say you were cooking in, say, 5 quarts of food, it might take an hour and a half to get to a boil, and then it would shut off, and you'd still be generating power, but that power, by a little relay, is switched to a battery charger. So if you're off the grid, you can have both electricity and cooking from the same solar panel. And the retained heat cooking, if you have a full pot of food, it'll stay hot for 8 hours after the heating element shuts off. So you could cook during the day and have a hot meal late in the evening. And we recently discovered that if you're charging a 12 volt battery with when the heater shuts off, you could directly connect the 120 volt heating appliance to the 12 volt battery, and it would put out about only 12 watts of heat. And the 12 watts of heat was enough to keep the pot at 150 degrees all night. So if you cook your food the day before, you'd still have hot food in the morning or for an early lunch. One additional feature we just found out about was the motors in small appliances are called universal type motors, a lot of them, and you find them in drills and sanders and blenders. So we found we could directly hook up one of these motors to the output of our DC output of our maximum power point tracker, and say we put out about 85 watts DC, 85 volts DC. The clients is designed for 120, but a lot of them still work really effectively. So we found we could even run some AC motors with this DC source. So we can also run a variety of other things, like we had a waffle maker and an oven. Like if you have a really well insulated oven, we could keep it at, this is Fahrenheit, 350 degrees Fahrenheit with only 150 watts of energy from the solar panel.
Wow, it's a quick question, in like let's say 2 minutes. Can you summarize your Sunfrost, your vaporizer?
Well, we looked at, while we were doing cooking, we looked at a number of different applications for solar cooking. One of them was for, like if you have a remote clinic, you get a lot of syringe waste, which is plastic and needles. So we built this solar, we used a small diameter vacuum tube collector, and you drop your needles in there, and it would melt the needles. It would melt the syringes, and the needles would get encased in the plastic. And then where we live, there's a big marijuana industry. And then we realized that we could also build a vaporizer for smoking marijuana, which is supposed to be safer than inhaling smoke in your lungs. So that's one of the other things we did.
Sure. I got to say, when I was done with my interview with Larry out there in California on the coast, it struck me on the drive away. I didn't realize it, but he was talking about a solar hookah. And I had been in San Diego at a hookah bar and thought, wow, if their outdoor cafe, they could have solar hookahs.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so thanks so much, Larry. That's great. And I'm going to share the screen again with the I'm going to find my topics list, because the next item is to talk about, just to let you know what topics have been identified through people that have responded to my invitation. We're not going to talk about each of them, so I'm going to try to get through them in about 5-10 minutes maximum, so you know what's coming up, and you'll have a thought to what to contribute. When we do one topic at a time each month, we hope to cover them. And so let me find my share screen again and get the right screen, get the appropriate screen here. Okay, so, and that's in a PowerPoint, so I'll expand it so it's easier to read. Oops, not from the beginning. I'm sorry. We'll get through. Here we go. So we did our introductions, and now we're the topics that we will discuss at future forums. Here they are. One that Roger's familiar with, and we had Roger and I sat in on a Rotary meeting with a fellow who also specialized in using carbon credits for green applications, and solar cooking is one of the projects. So we want to explore that in whatever depth we can. So we'll be able to arm all you that make solar food processors of any sort. How can you look into carbon credits to take advantage of them to get your products out there? If it's the way to go, we'll take whatever we can. As I say, we're not fighting over market share yet. So let's look at that. Second one that has come up is some have gone into producing solar cookers and they just get them out there, but they haven't had maybe a lot of experience with the customer service side. What if someone says, I got to return your cooker, it doesn't work? When you know very well it works, they probably just didn't set it up right, or who knows what. And what tips can you take to heart to make sure the product stays there and is used? Dave Chalker in particular has impressed me with his response when someone says, I got a problem with my cooker, and he says he puts everything aside, calls the person up, works through it, gets them a fix, and incorporates that fix into his next version of his ugly. He has since retired from that and and hope someone can maybe take it on from him. But he has probably a dozen things I learned in my last chat with him that were just really incredibly valuable. If I were to start a business, I would follow a lot of what he has to say. Third topic, and I know a couple that have been on one, at least on the call, counterfeit cookers. Yeah, where you have an excellent cooker. Well, you could either say success breeds success, or imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Well, in this case, it's not sincere, and it may not be all that flattering, especially if they do an inferior copy. And so if we have one session where we can talk about what can we do about it? How can we make sure your business is not harmed, and we can bring them into the fold as far as, hey, if you really want to promote solar cookers, well, come up with your own design, please. I don't know, who knows what. We might have 10 options by the end of the meeting when we talk about that. Fourth item, testing procedures, or how do we assess the performance of solar cookers? We had a really good discussion Thursday night about that. We probably covered a lot of the ground we'll cover again once we convene about that. And one idea that kept coming up was having more of a kind of a consumer reports type of assessment of cookers. So the user end. I mean, watts, I love it if I see a lot of watts, but I don't really know what that means when it's a cooker is tested for watts. But I know when I put out a cooker and it's sold as something that'll cook something in an hour or 2 hours to bake something, and it bakes in 2 hours, I'm satisfied. But what can we come up with as far as objective tests, or even subjective ones that just are cooker by cooker to be able to assess how well they work? And then the next one is a two-part topic. As far as getting cookers into the hands of people, there's obstacles to promotion, as in I know several have found that I've talked to, they try to get them into a country where they're desperately needed, but there's problems with customs, there's problems with the government maybe absconding with their cookers. I remember one telling me they had something like 500 in one country, and the customs said, yes, it's arrived, and when they went to customs, no one could find it. It was and that's a huge loss to the business. So how do we overcome those? And then the other one is the obstacles to adoption, and that one has come up kind of as a sidebar at the Console Foods conferences. What does it take? Someone's got your cooker. They've maybe even used it, but for some reason they just don't, it doesn't glom onto them that maybe they should use it every day they have sun instead of going for wood. The wood smoke idea, people love the wood smoke. Well, I don't know. How do we overcome that? Because they're burning down a forest for that wood smoke, that brief little satisfaction for, a different taste of something. So those are two, and two of them that came up Thursday night that were new, but they make a lot of sense. The one is, can we put together a list of kind of a catalog of solar cooking courses and trainings, so people who are new to it, or people maybe you're working with someone in another country to get your cooker there, what can they go through a quick training to know what works for helping people understand the use of the product, and especially the emphasis was on the boots on the ground, the people who are actually there. Maybe they're doing training. There's one organization, Solar Oven Partners, that has a 2-day training, and you have to go through both days. You pay a nominal fee, and then you get the cooker at the end. And if you show up the last hour, you don't get your cooker. And they find that they have pretty high adoption because of doing that. Very labor intensive. They're entirely supported by donations for getting their cookers overseas. And two different countries and the Navajo Nation. They've been off and on again. They're back in the Navajo Nation now. And the last one was to discuss online platforms. I'm doing this forum based on a podcast called Solar Noon Tuesdays. Fellow in Ohio, Jay Warmke, who's been in the solar PV industry for 30 plus years, has set up this weekly, very informative, hour-long podcast talking about the current state of the PV industry. And I thought to myself, well, let's do that for solar cooking. Let's have a regular forum. And I've chosen to go kind of constituency by constituency. So, solar cooking manufacturers and distributors such as you folks, we hope to set up another one with DIY cooker makers and maker spaces. Many of the people I've interviewed, they said they got involved with their local maker space where they didn't have to buy a welder or buy the 3D printer. They could use, for a membership of a few dollars a month, they could use the tools there and develop their product, develop their idea. And so to be able to network with them I'm hoping we have a few Facebook pages. There's one just specifically for DIY cooker, tinkerers and so forth. But the topic came up, is Facebook the only way to go? And there may be a better online platform. I'm willing to explore them. 3 years ago, I really was not impressed with the other ones out there, partly because Facebook has cornered the market as far as people participating, logging in, the usability. I've got my druthers about how they do it, but it works. It gets the basic ideas out there. People feel like they can participate, express their opinions, share their new product or their new design and so forth. But to have one session where maybe that's the invitation we'll go out to say, is Reddit the way you've worked on getting people involved and getting cookers? Discord was brought up as one, fairly new in the game. And I'll say up front, I'm kind of skeptical just for the sake of when I looked 3 years ago, platforms like Reddit, there's 11,000 people on the Solar Cookers World Network, and it's growing, by 50 to 100 sometimes each week. Huge amount of numbers that sign up. Reddit maybe had 100 or 200 back then. I think I looked a few months ago, it hadn't grown that much, and when I posted something, I got almost no response. And I don't know why that is, but I'm willing to, and I'd like to do a lot of cross-pollination. Actually, the best response I've gotten for posting stuff has been on LinkedIn. And I think that's because a lot of people that sign up for LinkedIn, they feel a little more investment in what they're going to hear from other people, even if it's across kind of a broad spectrum from their careers and so forth. But so that was the other one. And so basically the next item is, do you have any ideas for what you'd like to talk about with other solar cooker makers, manufacturers, folks that have had experience promoting them overseas? What topics would you like to see talked about? And I'll stop the share here because that's about as open-ended as you can get. What else would you like to talk about? Oh, will those 8 topics? Those will do it.
I think that once we go through those, then that will generate other ones.
Absolutely.
That's right now.
Yeah. Well, the prototype garage, Olaf. The one thing that I thought about with that, one thing that generated our visit was, you're kind of like a micro maker space. Where you have interested parties coming in and saying, how can you help me put together a design, or what tools you have and so forth. And so I think that might be a wonderful forum for you to put in some 2 cents, because that's the creative spirit. The reason I wanted that forum set up was we originally wanted to set up it was going to be a makerspace contest to go to all the maker spaces in the world. There's something like 1,300 registered with Make magazine around the world. There's 6 in Cairo. There's probably like 10 in Berlin. I think there's 10 in Los Angeles. sprawling city. They're going to have more, but they're all over the world. And to go to them and say, hey, you guys are where the creativity, the rubber hits the road. You are actually putting stuff together with the tools that not a lot of us have. Do you have any ideas for new cookers or to improve on cooker designs you've seen out there? And let's marshal the forces of 1,200, 1,300 maker spaces, each with anywhere from a dozen to a couple hundred creative souls, that can put their mind to work on it. Yes, Pat?
Yeah, let me turn on. Wait a minute.
Yeah, you're on.
Good.
Is my audio on? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, something I've encountered over the years, even from the time I first became involved, was what I would consider misinformation about solar cookers and their utility for the world's poorest, really poorest people. And I think that's maybe something that could be addressed as well. The issues that I have encountered over and over again, and UN documents, UN reports, United Nations, other international agencies, their conclusion is solar cookers aren't worth promoting, so we're just going to bring in wood or bring in truckloads of propane and give everybody a little propane burner, which is ridiculous and unsustainable. But the things that I hear over and over again, solar cookers are not durable. Now, that's based on what was done in Chad over a number of years, and I was there a couple times evaluating it. Solar Cookers International developed the Cook It back in the 90s, and it was made of cardboard and aluminum foil. And for an emergency, it's great. And I think everybody should have it. If that's all they can afford, they should have one in their homes. If the power goes out, at least they can boil water, for example. But they required a plastic bag that only lasted a few weeks. And if the cookits got wet, they fell apart or the animals would eat them. So that sort of was the example of solar cookers aren't durable, so we're not even going to promote them. Another I've heard in critiques is, well, you can't solar cook at night. Well, that's true. You cannot solar cook at night, which is why I urge solar cooking manufacturers to introduce their device as part of a system, integrated cooking. Yes, you can't solar cook at night. However, you can get something boiling during the day. You can cook during the day and put it in a retained heat container, or you can build a device that is a retained heat container in addition to being a solar cooker. But the least expensive is a retained heat container, which can be made. I've made them out of cardboard boxes and newspaper, and did it once at the Pentagon, and just astounded the Pentagon officials when I cooked something that got cloudy. I was using a solar cooker. I put it in over a tin can rocket stove, got it boiling, put it in a cardboard box stuffed with newspaper, and I said at 5 o'clock, we're going to have hot chicken dinner and hot rice. And they didn't believe me, but we did. So I think it's really important, and that's my next video. It's going to be the importance of promoting the integrated cooking method, not just introducing your solar cooker as a standalone device. I think, and people also say, well, you can't eat so hot. The food isn't hot at night. You have to, it's cold when you eat it at night. Again, retained heat cooking. Another argument I've heard many times is, well, you can't leave a solar cooker unattended. Well, you can't leave a fire unattended either. But there are some solar cookers, yes, the big parabolas that have to be adjusted every 15 minutes. Yeah, they cook great, but no, you can't leave them unattended. And if that fire is reflected against a straw bale or a straw house, it'll catch it on fire. So yes, some cannot be left unattended, but neither can a cooking fire be left unattended. And the other argument is, well, solar cooking takes too long and people are used to putting things on a fire. But I have seen in the refugee camps in Chad where the women who had previously cooked over fire, now they just put their food in earlier, maybe 2 hours earlier, and then they would go sit in the shade while their food cooked in the sun. So none of these are showstoppers that are going to stop someone from using, but because it's so unique, and I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but I have many times overseas, the first time people see me cooking food, and I always do local food, with a solar cooker, and I opened it and it's steaming, they're afraid to taste it because how can this be cooked? There's no fire. And so I always have to eat the first bit, and then they wait to see if I'm going to die or throw up or something. And then they eat it, and it tastes really good. So the fact that the argument that they take too long is pervasive, and I think that's something as a group, informal or formal group, we have to address these concerns, which are resulting in many aid agencies and governments just not wanting to deal with solar cookers because of all these misconceptions that are promoted by people who consider solar cooking a threat to what they're doing, like providing tens of thousands of people with propane.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Very, very, very good. And that I'm adding that to the list. A quick story, and then Alain will have you speak too. I keep up on my collecting of cookers through two searches. One is on eBay, where I just anytime there's a new solar cooker listing, if it's one I don't have and it's unique, I save up and buy it. But the other one is a Google search about the only thing that still works well with Google. It's called a Google Alert. Look up how to set up a Google Alert, and daily it looks up for any reference to solar cooker, solar oven, or solar stove. And I think I subtract some brands that I already have, but the idea is to just see what new posts there are. And I got to say, if there's 10 different new references to solar cooking, 2 or 3 of them are bogus. They are not helpful. I remember one that said, here's a review of solar cookers, and one of the first things says, well, here's the upsides and downsides, and then the last paragraph has, well, it's just no point using solar cookers. Well, why did you even write the thing? And to combat that is going to be a challenge, because we're talking the brave new world here with the information technology spreading these things. What is it Mark Twain said? A lie has made its way around the world, and the truth is still putting on its pants. That's how quick the falsehoods get out. So, anyway, Alain, I thought I saw your hand up.
I totally agree with you, Patricia. When people ask me, for example, they say, "Oh, you cannot cook at night." I say yes, and then you cannot cook when it's raining. However, I know that anywhere around the world, we all already have a main cooking device, whether we cook with electricity or gas or wood, and then the solar cooker will make a 30% saving on whatever we cook with, and here it's quite a good argument. And the other story, when people say, yeah, it takes too long, I say, yes, you're right, it's a little bit longer, so you got to get used that it's, for example, it's 10 o'clock in the morning, you're not hungry yet, but the sun is shining, so I set something up and it will be ready for lunch. And it's not that hard. And one last argument that Luther gave me is, when the sun is shining and I'm not cooking, I feel like I'm wasting the sun.
Yeah, right.
And people understand that as well.
Yeah.
But I totally agree. On my side, I will have to think on heat retake device, because yes, they are really fantastic. The problem I would have as a manufacturer was how big they are and how can I ship them through the mail, and that it wouldn't cost too much money.
I wouldn't make them or ship them. I would include a page explaining how they can make their own.
Yeah.
Because you can make it out of a laundry basket, out of a cardboard box. You can dig a hole in the ground and stuff it with paper. You don't have, they're so easy to make. I would just put in a explanation of how to make one and put that in with your device. How to keep this food hot for hours.
That's a great idea. Great idea. I'm gonna think about it.
Watch my video.
Yeah, we'll post it to the group.
I will.
And a sidebar on that quickly is you probably have seen in the last year or so, it's come to light there are at least 2 countries where they have what they're calling clothing deserts, where they have basically shipped excess clothing from us rich, wasteful countries. I think it is Chile or Argentina, the Atacama Desert. There's one place where they have to monitor it for fires, because a lot of it is like polyester cloth, really bad pollution enough with cotton and wool, but extraordinary. Ghana is another one, and here's a use for all those what are basically rags now, because they're being dumped They can't sell them all. They can't sell more than a percentage of them. So these piles just grow and grow. So there's a way. That's a way to pitch it, is to be able to say you don't have to have your T-shirts and your underwear and your jeans end up in these piles in the desert. So anyway, did I see Roger's in? Yes, Roger.
Let me just say a word. I have not said anything. I didn't introduce myself because I introduced myself yesterday, the day before yesterday at the earlier meeting. But I'm so pleased to be here. I just want to say you're all my heroes. Alain, I have your cooker. It is a fabulous device. And Patricia, who is my mentor, and I owe everything to Patricia. So and Luther, you are a genius at organizing these events, and just masterful what you've done with solar cooking. I could not be more pleased with the community that's been created here. Very happy to be here, and we've been making efforts to try to overcome the VAT and import duties. I think we're going to I think we're going to get an exemption in Kenya this year, and that will lead to other things as well, I think. So we need to get these cookers around the world, especially in developing countries, and that's one way to do it, is to get rid of those very high taxes in those countries.
Well, I should add that to the carbon credits night. I think those two are hand in glove. Two ways to approach this. You're going to have to work with the powers that be over there in where the cookers need to go. So, going to make that notation too. Any other ideas for topics to talk about? I mean, we already got now. That's probably 9 or 10 months worth. So we'll have plenty to cover in 2025. Starting in January, you'll get a note. And it'll be 2 times, again, just like this one. We're 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening, our time, so the whole world can log in. And I've got to say, side note, I guaranteed I was going to record these sessions, including the video, and I had it paused at the beginning, and I forgot to click record. However, as you who I visited for videos know, I have like 5 cameras and 3 sound things, so I always have a backup. So I do have the sound, and in fact, I've been using my phone. There's a system on my phone where it'll actually parse out by the speaker. It'll say speaker 1, speaker 2, speaker 3. When I get the transcript, I can say, well, if Janie was the first to talk, I can say speaker 1, change that to Janie. Roger second. Okay, they'll all be replaced with Roger. So I can have the transcript along with it, and the audio I could plug in with just a screenshot of all of us or something. We'll figure it out. So we'll be able to share the amount of knowledge and the exchange that we've had as well. That was my mistake. I should just hit record and let it go, but I don't want that dead air in front. Just poor planning on my part. But I've been keeping notes as well, and with the transcript, I'll be able to make sure I flesh out the topic. So when we hit the ground running, talking about actually, that's the question I should have, is of the topics I mentioned, what would be the priority for talking about first? I know that carbon credits has been a hot topic with the SRAG group and with various environmental groups that I've been involved with, and I'd like to, and especially with the idea of the taxing and being able to work with the governments to eliminate other hindrances. Maybe you don't need carbon. I know that plenty of people that aren't really fond of the idea of carbon credits for all sorts of reasons. How many options do we have to make the deal work with another country? So anyway, any other ideas? Any other ideas for topics to talk about? Yes, Alain.
I had somebody advised me, because I said in France, the tax is very high. And I said it's not fair because photovoltaic have a very low tax and they get government loans. And we solar cooking, we have high tax and we don't get any loans. So she said, well, talk to your senator. So I wrote to my senator, and he answered me, and maybe we're going to meet in January.
Nice.
So I'm beginning politics.
Uh-oh,
Right.
uh-oh. Careful, you might...
It's a battle to the sea, you know.
Right.
I don't know if it's going to get anywhere. But I
That'll,
want to change the laws.
yeah,
Bonne chance. Bonne chance.
that might be like, you know, a lot of the people I interviewed, the first solar cooker they used, they put in an empty pot because they wanted to convince themselves it would work. And then they saw, oh, 300 degrees, great. And they reach in and grab the empty pot
Right.
with their bare hand. So just the caution with politics, the pot in that room is going to be hot. Bring your oven gloves.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I've got about 10, 15 minutes before I've got to get Jo from her flute choir practice, but we can keep going if there's any other topics or any other networking questions. Yes, Janie.
So, how are you going to put in how we could maybe get in contact with each other?
Oh, yes. In fact, the one question Roger asked that before the first night was sharing everyone that's been invited. And initially, I just mentioned the groups, and you can find their contact information on the wiki. But I think what I'll do is for those that have attended, I don't think anyone will have the problem where I can share email addresses and websites. And what I did for Thursday nights was I sent out the videos that I've made with a bunch. I think I have... Oh, who was it that, I think, Sophie Lyman with Solar Household Energy. I had not interviewed her, but I had interviewed Paul Arvison, who was a part of the Solar Household Energy. And so I sent the links to my interview, so you'd get to know the people even more. And in some of the case, I actually have to go back through my YouTube and figure out where I can put their contact if it's appropriate. But I'll do that for all of you and also the Thursday night group to share the contact information. Yeah. And then as time goes on, as everyone that attends, you know, unless someone has an objection, we'll just start doing that.
That's great. Because I would love to stay. I've got to go keep grandkids now.
Sure.
But I would love to stay and visit, but I've got to go, so I'm glad to have a link there.
Sure. Well, this is it's been an hour and 37 minutes at least, and very productive. Certainly for me,
Yeah.
I always learn 5 or 10 things. Pat.
Will we have access to the recorded Thursday session at
Yes.
some point?
Yes. In fact, I literally last night I chopped out some of the technical difficulties, and it's like I hit record at the beginning, and so there's like a half hour of just that opening screen. You know, I took that out just so you didn't see there's a 2-hour video. You know, that's going to be kind of intimidating. And there are a couple technical glitches where I was able to just take them out because there wasn't any discussion going on while we recovered. Thankfully, this morning I have had no glitches for myself. Twice my system booted me off, and then it went right back in. Fortunately, recorded everything else, so we don't lose anything. Zoom is good that way. Yeah. Anything else?
So I don't know. So the ports had actually forwarded the meeting notice on this to me last night.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of it, so you don't have my contact info.
Oh, right. Email me museum@bigbluesun.net. If it should be in the note they got, if they forwarded it to you. And I should have put that. I should have put that in the chat. I'll put it in the chat quick too. So if you want to copy and paste. I think I spelled it right. Yep. Yeah, museum@bigbluesun.net. I had it on the opening screen and the list of topics as well, but yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
Solar ovens, and I'll just hit send. It should be in your inbox in a minute.
Great.
Let me know if you get.
Great. And we'll add you definitely.
Yeah.
All right.
And I have a compatriot. His name's Mike.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually are utilizing for the primary email addresses will all be coming from solarovens.org.
Okay.
I believe is what our email address is, but I'll double check on that.
Sure. Okay. Any last words, as they say, for the good of the order? Alain.
One more question. Yes, Patricia, what is your YouTube channel?
Oh, so Solar Wind Mama, we need to unmute.
I'm on mute, yes. I just sent it in the message, so there, I sent the link to everybody. If you look
Okay.
at your messages.
Okay.
Oh, there,
great.
yeah, on the
Yeah,
chat.
so the,
Yep.
Thank you.
so they go back to 2008, I think. That was my first one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely amazing collaboration. I'm impressed.
Well, it's so good to have you on board. Like I say, when the visit to the garage, there, the prototype garage, that's what made me think. There's these maker spaces, and yours is my curse is I always find the next connection. What is it, Malcolm Gladwell? Types of people. I'm the connector. I'm not the mover and shaker, but I connect the people who move and shake. So, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Hey, absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Luther.
Thank you. And
Thanks, Luther. Thanks,
Yes.
everybody. It was a pleasure. See you soon.
Yes.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Allez.
Okay. Au revoir.
Bye-bye. Au revoir. Ciao.
Ciao.